You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look me better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Deku and Hero Academia Enters Miraculous, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Bola 8 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. The monster roared, "Stop running away. Stop missing." Deku avoided another clunky fist and threw out a punch, blowing away another chunk of earth from the arm attached to it. At this rate, you'll be a pebble before this is over. No. I am Stoneheart. No one can hurt me. Keep telling yourself that. He had Stoneheart's full attention and a name to the rocky face, perfect. A mad charge was Deku's reward for his troubles. Thanks to danger sense stabbing his brain with a warning for each strike several seconds before they even started, the boy kept avoiding harm with little difficulty. He only needed an opportunity, then he could finish it. Something flew out from behind, the girl's yo-yo, and lassoed Stoneheart's head. Deku used that second of surprise to snatch its legs with Black Whip, a grunt escaping his mouth. Both pulled, and the 2 points being dragged in opposite directions tripped the golem. Deku ignored the pain and the BLD escaping the gauntlet's openings on the back of his hands and leaped up. With Stoneheart flat on its back, Deku had the perfect shot. He flipped, leg stretched straight up, boot crackling with his Quirk's energy, St. Louis smash. The axe kick fell like a guillotine. Stoneheart ended up buried into the street, chunks of it flying from the force of the impact along parts of the giant's chest. Cracks on the asphalt spread away from the crater, some even reaching the sidewalks. The closest vehicles were upturned, ending on their sides. In the center of such a scenario of destruction, Deku stood atop Stoneheart. The hero pushed through the pulsing pain in his leg and started to rip off the surviving parts of the stone shell, trying to literally dig the person trapped inside the golem out. A human hand, reached out, a crumpled paper between its fingers. Danger sense abruptly spiked at the sight of it, and Deku remembered Plagg's tip. He reached for it and ripped the page away from the hand, tearing it in the process. Marinette, arms throbbing from her stunt and backside hurting from falling on it after being pushed away by the shockwave, rushed to try helping Deku when suddenly the monster was gone, fading away in black smoke. A black butterfly fluttered by her. Huh. She approached the crater carefully, yo-yo in hand, only to see Deku and Ivan. The large boy took hasty breaths, his buzzed black hair was dripping with sweat and the blonde tuft on the front was clinging to his forehead. He looked at them with blown wide eyes. I didn't mean dash. Hey, it's okay. Deku's voice turned so soft, nothing of the sharp strictness he issued commands or the heated anger he shouted war cries present in it, only care for the person that had been trying to kill him a moment earlier. It's okay, it wasn't your fault. I couldn't move, I couldn't. Ivan drew into himself, hugging his chest as shaking. Marinette had never seen the stoic boy so distressed before. Deku kneeled before Ivan, hands raised and visible to show he meant no harm. You're free now. It's okay, breathe. In. Out. In. Out. He made the motions, which Ivan followed, and both stabilized their respiration from their haggard states, Deku being winded from the fight and Ivan at the edge of a panic attack. Good. Can you tell us what happened? The larger boy frowned, struggling with something. I don't remember. One moment I was by myself in the park, the next. It was like I was bound to a chair in a dark room. Still, I had these flashes of what was going on. Did I hurt anyone? No. It wasn't you, someone made you do all that, and even then, we got here before anything bad could happen. Deku put a hand on Ivan's shoulder, opening a reassuring smile. Everyone is safe, including you, that's all that matters. Yeah. Marinette approached them, more confident now that the familiar territory of supporting her friends was before her. Whatever got broken can be rebuilt, and I made sure everyone got away safely while Deku held you Stoneheart back and saved you. Everything is alright now. Deku glanced at her. You also helped trip Stoneheart. I only got a clear shot because of you. He stood up, helping Ivan to his feet. I think all of us did a good job holding out, right? Both Marinette and Ivan gave the hero shy nods. While yes, the situation had been a nightmare, they were all standing in the end and that was what mattered. Freeze! One of the cops she rescued shouted from the edge of the crater, his gun quickly switching targets between them. While Ivan gasped and Marinette yelped, Deku snapped his hand forward, the black thing shooting out of his gauntlet again and snatching the weapon, reeling it back to his hand. He grabbed it with a wet clap, which made Marinette notice the blood dripping down his arm. Stand down, officer, we dealt with the villain and rescued the victim being controlled. The steely and professional tone was back. Deku's face revealed nothing, but the red rivulets flowing down his gauntlet guaranteed he was hurt. How was he so calm? Deku gently pushed Ivan, who was shocked silent, retreating into himself like he usually did when overwhelmed, to Marinette. Get him medical attention, we don't want any lingering effects from the transformation or the fight. Marinette nodded quickly, what about you? You're bleeding. She weakly pointed to his hand. I had worse. With those concerning parting words, Deku went to talk to the police and clear things up. In another blur, Marinette grabbed Ivan and left him by an ambulance that had been called somewhere in the middle of all that, the paramedics quickly pulling the boy inside to check on him. That dealt with, Marinette now had freedom of mind to feel numb. The girl looked at the warzone all around her and felt cold. It was too much, way too much. Marinette had woken up to another peaceful day in Paris, but instead all that, just ran her over with a shock of reality. Peace was fragile, one thing going wrong was all it took for it to fall apart. What if she hadn't been quick enough? What if Deku hadn't been there to fight Stoneheart? Marinette would have to deal with it, or the police, or even the military. She glanced blankly at the sight of desolation before her. How worse would it be? If that disaster that ended as suddenly as it started had gone on for hours, days, with normal people using what they could to deal with a threat like Stoneheart. Would there be anything left of Paris in the end? Hey! Marinette yelped, startled out of her spiral so hard by the mere word she jumped. She turned to look at Deku, who had once again his hands clearly in sight to show he meant no harm. One of them was still bleeding, but the tiny streams were only sporadic drips now. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you. You're hurt. The hero sighed, I'm fine. There are people who need help more than me. He jabbed a thumb to a close building which looked mostly intact. We have to talk. Why yes. Would she even be able to swing up the building? Everything Marinette did looked like a fever dream now, all of it did. She pulled her yo-yo from her belt with shaky hands, only to have Deku stop her. He put his clean hand over hers and shook his head, you're gonna hurt yourself like that. Stop, breathe, and ground yourself. The danger is gone, there's no rush. Marinette held her weapon close to her chest, feeling her drumming heart and focusing on slowing it down. She had to thank Chloe for showing her breathing exercises to calm down panic and anxiety when she saw her friend again. Some minutes later, she nodded and showed her steady hands. Deku nodded and lit up. Literally. Red lines appeared on his body, so bright it was visible over his clothes. When they completely spread his skin became glowy and the green and black lightning was back over his form. He let out a sigh and leaped away, crossing the distance in a single bound. Quickly shaking her head to push away the shock of what she just saw, Marinette threw her yo-yo and pulled herself to the rooftop. She landed with a stumble, recovering at the last second and not face-planting on any of the plants in the rooftop garden. Deku at least chose a nice place for their conversation. Speaking of, the boy was fidgeting with his right gauntlet, the one stained red. He pressed some form of clasp and the bracer and wrist guard opened just enough for him to pull the whole thing off. Deku sat on the floor and put the gauntlet aside, then he pulled his jumpsuit sleeve up. Marinette let out a choked gasp at the sight of his arm. Patches of skin were torn and scabbing, blood still slowly dripping down from the irregular holes. How did that dash? Wait, that black thing you used, it did that to you? Deku nodded while pulling a bandage roll from a pouch on his belt. Good to see these are still here. He quickly bandaged his arm, looking like he had done so many times before. Black whip is volatile. While my body doesn't acclimatize to it, I have to use it sporadically. Your Kwamis power is hurting you. He blinked 2 times. We can use more of our Kwamis power beyond the costume. Deku looked genuinely surprised for a moment before adopting a thoughtful frown and muttering something to himself too fast for Marinette to understand. He pulled up a notebook and pen from somewhere and started to write down frantically. That gave Marinette enough time to recover, just to be shocked again. Wait. All that you did, it's not because of your miraculous. You have all those powers by yourself? Deku grimaced for a moment. He locked eyes with her for a moment, then quickly glanced at something to his left. Marinette followed his eyes but saw nothing there. I had my queer power for a long time now. She noticed the slip of the tongue but decided to not comment. Like I said, my Kwami and I hadn't much time to talk about things before this, so I stuck to what I knew. That was fair, even if it still threw her for a loop. You were, what, a superhero before? Yes. Look, it's complicated. More complicated than magic jewelry that gives you superpowers to fight giant monsters. Yes. By his tone, Marinette was fine with not knowing it. For now. Okay then. She approached him and sat facing him. So what can you tell me about all this? I don't exactly have heroine experience. I noticed. He gave her a blank stare that Marinette would admit slightly offended her. She was trying. Deku sighed, looking more tired than anything. Can we start from the beginning? We hadn't really had time before. Yes, sure. That would give Marinette some much-needed answers. Let's start with who are you? We can't know each other's identities. That was the first thing Tiki stressed. They had to remain anonymous to protect themselves and their loved ones, and each other too. I'm talking about your hero name. I can't keep calling you Red Girl in my head all the time. Fair, but she could go without the dry sass, like how you go by Deku in costume. Are we really doing the superhero thing? The last part was more her grumbling about it, but the boy answered anyway. Code names are useful to protect our identities while giving clarity to who you're referring to in dangerous situations where each second counts. We can't have confusion and ambiguity getting in the way when a mishap means someone gets hurt, or worse. Deku gestured at himself, making the lecture go back to the original topic. Take Deku, by example. No one else calls themselves that, so if someone calls it, I know they're referring to me. And it also carries a meaning, a reminder to myself for what I'm fighting for. If Marinette had to put a word to Deku now, it would be melancholic. The hero who had been so sure of himself while fighting a stone monster the size of a house now looked sad and tired. That was it, Marinette wasn't chickening out again. She failed Andrian at school, she wouldn't fail another person. Do you want to talk about it? I'm sure you have a big reason to choose the name of a Japanese god of thunder as a hero name. Beyond the obvious, that is. Deku slowly raised his head to stare at her. What? I'm serious, wasn't the legend this big god that had a sumo match with another one and crushed his arms or something? Marinette had only tangential knowledge of it from something she thought she saw at an exposition in the museum one day. Or was it a class on other cultures? Deku snickered, trying his best not to smile. Do you mean Takamikazuchi? While she achieved her objective of shaking Deku off his funk, Marinette felt her ears heat up with embarrassment. Yes? I think I missed the mark. You don't say. Oh, look, more dry sass. Deku shook his head with an amused smile. It's fine, I'm surprised you know something of Japanese culture. Most people in Paris wouldn't, what with the different continent and all that. The upturn of his lips quickly vanished. If you were to translate, Deku means empty wooden doll, which is usually a way to say useless when referring to someone. Marinette felt her brain stuttering at that. What? Just, what the heck? Excuse me, but what? Deku, that couldn't possibly be the meaning of it, right? Gave a very dry snort. Yeah. But that's not why I call myself that. Deku sounds similar to Dekairu, which means, you can do it. That's what my Deku means. Now that she could get behind. You sure believed I could do it if the impromptu superhero lesson was anything to go by. Sorry, I couldn't help more, but we had an emergency going on. It's fine. I'll just think about something that fits then. Marinette had no idea what to choose as a superhero name. Who would even think about something like that? Deku pulled out his notebook again. Where did he keep that? A tip from Who Was in Your Shoes, try to remember something that people you care about said. To you, about you, it can be anything really. Those were usually the words that stick to you the most. Marinette took the advice to heart. Her mind went to her parents, the greatest people in her life. To her father calling her silly names and praising her passions, of him surprising her with things for her designs, from expensive silk he found a way to purchase to a needle he managed to uncrook himself. To her mother who told stories of her homeland, of a culture that was Marinette's birthright, no matter what anyone said, to her explaining that every part of her was appealing and to never let people say otherwise. That was something Marinette tried, even when it hurt. Even when she felt alone in a crowd. If her partner could choose the meaning of his Deku and not settle down for being useless, then Marinette could take something that weighed on her and make it mean something better too. Noir. Marinette, no, Noir locked eyes with Deku. I'm Noir. The smile he gave her at that moment was the most genuine she saw from Deku yet. That's great. Noir is a creation goddess in Chinese mythology, right? Now only that, but the color red is associated with the myth of how she repaired the heavens and is a symbol of good luck and happiness in the culture, right? It fits you well. Noir was both embarrassed by the compliment and awed at how much Deku knew. You are really informed. He instantly retreated, acting shifty. It's nothing. There was a running theory that I tried to confirm, and that led me to learn all kinds of things. Noir knew when someone dodged a subject as if it was cursed, and Deku wasn't even subtle about it. Anyway. Now that we are properly introduced, we have to talk about the problem at hand. Whoever has the butterfly miraculous. Right, they were still out there somewhere. That meant that what happened today would keep happening until they stopped the person behind it. They sent Stoneheart after you the moment it saw you. Which means they know about the other miraculous and want them. The notebook again. Noir hadn't even seen Deku move. Multiple miraculous would put a person on a level of power and versatility that would make them almost unbeatable before someone stopped them. That wasn't what he was going to say. Still, we have the numbers advantage. I don't think I can be very helpful in a fight. I only won at that moment because you helped. Yes, you need more training and more preparation than your civilian background gave you, but we can solve that with time. You say that like we'll be part of the military or something. Technically speaking, we are vigilantes. Everything we did was highly illegal. What? No, she couldn't be a criminal. Nope, no spiraling. Deku lightly chopped Noir's head, successfully stopping the girl from going down a probably lengthy mental tirade. It's not as bad as it looks. With the miraculous magic making us unrecognizable, we can't be arrested as our civilian selves, and as long as we only use our powers to help take down the butterfly miraculous holder and their minions, everything we do should technically fall under Good Samaritan laws. Noir let a weary sigh escape her, calming down knowing they were more or less in the right. Still, how do you know all that? That glance to the side again, eyes going to something she couldn't see. Deku gritted his teeth before letting out a weary sigh. Look, let's just say this isn't my first time doing something like this and leave it at that, okay? He didn't beg, but his unnaturally bright and slitted eyes felt a tone bleaker. Deku didn't want to talk about it, that was obvious. Okay. Noir's soft acceptance of his request made Deku relax just a tad. What do we do now, then? Do we just, I don't know, wait for another attack? We won't always be as lucky as to have an overt situation like this one. He scribed something on his notebook and tore out the page. Here, a basic patrol meeting point and route. Both of us will meet at the starting point. I'll give you some quick, Hero 101 lessons and then we will scout the city for any sign of the butterfly miraculous. The page contained various street addresses and instructions as where they would go and what path to take. How did you come up with all this so fast? I didn't. I had this plan for years in case it was needed, and would you look at that? It is. Deku put back his gauntlet, it clicking shut over his arm. She would need to talk to Tiki about a better suit. Noir was feeling very underdressed. Can I ask why? You just did. The sass was starting to get to her. I learned very early that being prepared for anything and everything is not only possible but necessary in this line of work. He glared at his left. What was he looking at all the time? Don't worry, you'll get there too. Sure. Noir didn't think that was healthy. I think that's all we have time for today. I don't know you but my civilian self is going to be missed soon if I don't go back. Deku stood up hastily, and Noir could hear how his body creaked. It wasn't the joints popping kind of creak, but that something is very wrong type. Are you okay? I'm fine. She didn't believe him. Deku walked to the edge of the roof, stopping just shy of the edge. We'll talk more later, but let me give you some words of wisdom as your senior. Go home, make sure you take a roundabout path by the way, then cry, hug the people you love, and cry some more. What, why? Noir was going to do that already, she just wanted to understand why he encouraged the decision. Breaking down doesn't sound like something very heroic to her. Because it will make you feel a lot better. Believe me, I would know. That's what you are gonna do too. The silence that fell over them was chilling and suffocating. Noir felt as if she had just stepped in someone's grave, and the angry ghost had taken revenge by squeezing her insides. When Deku's voice broke the quiet, it sounded rough as if the boy had fought not one battle but a whole war. I haven't had it in me to cry in a long time. He powered up and crouched. About to take off he let out a mutter that Noir was sure she wasn't supposed to hear. Scream at myself though, that I can do. The girl reached out her hand, trying to say something to stop him from going. She was too late. Noir watched the green and black dot against the sky, wondering if the person who was supposed to be by her side also needed someone by his. The wounded tone of his voice was all the answer she needed. If Noir was to be a hero, then it was her job to save everyone within her reach. That was unexpected. No matter. Their miraculous will be mine. Then, we will. Plagg, claws in. Ninth growled out the words. He waited for his suit to finish dematerializing in black particles before entering his bedroom properly, having entered through the bathroom window. Tiki, spots off. Marinette dropped bonelessly on her bed, her silly and plain costume fading away in small red lights. She was alone in her room, which was just like she left it before her whole world got flipped on its head. Ninth pushed past his predecessors and Kwami and marched to the punching bag hanging on the side of his room. Marinette grabbed her pillow, ignoring Tiki's concerned stare. His abused knuckles split open when the strike connected. Her quivering lips let out a sob on the soft cotton. He shouted. She cried. It was too soon. It was too much. He wasn't ready. She wasn't good enough. If he had more time. If it was somebody else. Ninth needed 2 years. With that time, he could have mastered enough of one for all that he could have done it. He could have been the hero he promised to be this time. He could have made things right. Marinette wanted to throw the earnings clipped to her earlobes away. To give it to someone else, someone who could be a hero and actually help instead of floundering like she did. Maybe if she had given the box to someone worthy they could have made things right. The punching bag burst under the assault, bleeding out sand. The pillow ripped, wet strings snapping under the pressure. His rage was drowning. Her grief was suffocating. Still. He had to keep pushing. She had to keep up. The future, and now the present, were counting on him. The city, and everyone in it, was counting on her. His partner. Her partner. He had to be strong for her. She had to be strong for him. Ninth could rage at the world when it wasn't about to collapse. Marinette could cry about her losses when she wasn't at risk of losing even more. Now. The world needed Deku. The world needed Noir. The world needed them. Chloe Bourgeois was many things. Among them was observant, but even if she wasn't, figuring out the identity of Paris' most controversial topic could hardly be called a challenge. Not when the list of people who could light up with green lightning only had one name in it. With that in mind, Chloe marched to the Agresti mansion like a woman on a mission. What was that punk thinking? He went to fight a giant rock monster with no backup. No offense to the girl that was with him, but it was obvious she didn't know what she was doing, without telling anyone, and without a plan. That was the part that most got on Chloe's nerves. How could Azzy be so reckless? He always had a plan. He taught her to always have a plan. They had multiple plans in place in the off chance a disaster happened and they had to do something about it. And he just threw it all out of the window to punch a boulder in the face, hopefully harder than it could punch back. Ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. Her grumbling continued while she entered the mansion, using the spare key she had to bypass the usual time wasters of informing the people of the house she was there. Power walking through the empty hallways, she quickly reached the door to her blockhead of a somewhat adopted brother's room. Chloe reined in the impulse to kick it open, knowing better than to startle the person who taught her how to be paranoid. The girl knocked on the door. "I'm coming in." With the warning given, she promptly opened it and slid in. "Okay Azzy, you have 2 seconds to explain." "What the hell?" The blonde blanched at the state of the room. The floor was matted with sand coming from the ripped, more like exploded punching bag discarded on the corner. Notes and training equipment were flung around haphazardly, and the center table and couch were flipped over. It looked like a tornado had swept through the place. In the center of it all was Azzy. He was sitting on his bed, still wearing the clothes he went to school with and the addition of a bandage over his right arm. Both his hands were bleeding from his split knuckles, but he simply ignored the fact in favor of pressing his palms into his eyes. "What do you want, Chloe?" "What I want can wait until after we patch you up." The girl made a beeline to his closet. She threw it open and grabbed the first aid kit on top of the industrial buzzsaw, not calling him out on it. Chloe would be a hypocrite if she nagged Azzy when she had just as much of a valuable and ambiguously legal hoard inside her own closet. "I'm fine." "Did I ask?" "No, I said we were patching you up, so shut." She marched to the bed, sat beside him, and waited. Chloe knew she wasn't grabbing his arm unless Azzy let her, especially when he was in the middle of one of those moments where he felt more like a cornered animal than a person. Azzy rubbed his face tiredly, looking at her with his green eyes almost glowing, and sighed, "Fine." He offered Chloe his still bleeding hands. You really pushed yourself if your eyes look like that. The more of his power he used, the brighter they got, along with his hair becoming a jagged mess as if electrified. She only saw it getting to that point once, and Azzy had to stay in the hospital for a week because of it. That day had been a nightmare on various levels, but at the same time, Chloe remembered them sharing a hospital room and playing some silly card game. That was one of the fondest memories of her childhood. They both were real messes, weren't they? Chloe cleaned the wounds with antiseptic and spread an anesthetic balm over them because no matter how much of a hard-ass Azzy was, those got to hurt. To finish it, Chloe wrapped his hands in bandages tightly, but not too much as to impede movement. All done. You got really good at this. All those first aid courses weren't just for show. They were mostly to help with her anxiety over her helplessness. She felt much better knowing if something happened then she could do more than stand around and cry. Chloe did enough of that. Azzy smiled one of those, "I'm proud of you but too emotionally spent to show it properly" smiles of his. They sure aren't. Giving them 5 seconds to enjoy the moment, Chloe cut to the chase when the time was up. You fought a giant rock monster. Yes. In the middle of Paris. Yes. In a catsuit. It wasn't a catsuit. It was a stealth hero suit. And it has cat ears. Azzy had the decency to look away. In my defense, that part was because of who made me the suit, I'm pretty sure. And who was that? Chloe would very much like to know. She wanted to have a lengthy discussion with this person about their design sense and maybe strangle them for enabling her menace of a brother. Plagg. Come on out, we need to talk. Azzy's soft and tired tone became the hardened and commanding baritone. Chloe knew he only broke that out when diplomacy had been thrown out of the window. Azzy would get his way or someone would get a beating. Probably a verbal beating, but those were just as brutal as the physical ones the boy could dish out. You know, all the miraculous stuff should be a secret, right? Chloe almost jumped away from the bed at the voice suddenly coming from right beside her ear. There, floating in the air, was a miniature black cat. Okay, the ears make sense now. Plagg, why did you send me to the field with incomplete information? Azzy talked to the floating cat completely unbothered. Would you sit back and wait for me to give you the full talk? The boy sighed. No. No, I wouldn't. Back up a bit, people. Why is there a floating cat here? And why does it talk? That was a little over Chloe's weirdness tolerance. Just a bit. The cat, Plagg as Azzy called him, turned to Chloe with a bored look. If the kitten is fine with you knowing it then I won't bother. I'm Plagg, Kwami of Destruction, and as of today, the kitten's partner. Nice to meet you. She blinked, her brain finally catching up, and what do you mean by, Kwami of Destruction, and partner? Plagg floated closer and sat on her head, much to her consternation. You see, Kwamis are what you little mortals decided to call us when we managed to make contact. It means, translating and paraphrasing, consciousness that has logic or something vaguely like that. Ugh, why do you guys make so many languages only for them to die out later? The cat slumped on Chloe's head, pawing at her glasses grumpily. The blondes traded a glance. You got straddled with an eldritch cat god. Apparently. Chloe scooted the pocket-sized cosmic horror from her head, petting Plagg's in turn. If she was getting into this mess, she was gonna show who was boss, okay? So, mini cat god, what made you decide to choose Azzy as your mortal champion or whatever the case is? Oh, you know, the usual. Scratch a little to the left. She did, and he purred. That's the spot. Yeah, I needed someone I could trust to get things done, and the kitten here is a scrappy one. I know he can do it. Do what? Rescue my friend. Yup, Azzy was the right choice. Chloe, from personal experience, could speak for her brother when the subject was helping save people. He could do it, it was just a question of how much effort it would take. And how many broken bones. I know. Plagg was practically a liquid in her hand now, like cats usually became when they relaxed. And hey, it's not like I'm not going to help. He turned to Azzy, a smug smirk on his face. Did you like your costume? An eye roll later, the boy admitted that yes with a nod. It's as good as professional level suits, and the equipment held up. Not only that, I think the disguise magic worked, as the police hadn't kicked down the door yet. Azzy pulled one of his notebooks, making Chloe flinch. There we go. I just have some questions to ask about it. What else can I do with your miraculous? How does it work? What are the drawbacks? The boy lost himself in a storm of increasingly quicker questions shot one after the other. Ugh, they would be there a while. Ninth forgot just how much fun it was to analyze powers. It wasn't a quirk, but magic harnessed from a sentient concept in chibi form wasn't all that different, believe it or not. He had ripped every kernel of information he possibly could from Plagg, after bribing the Kwami with cheese of all things, and went deep into the night filling notebook after notebook. Now it was close to 1 in the morning and he had finally burned off enough energy to stop. Chloe, who had decided an intervention was in place and enacted it as an impromptu sleepover, had held strong and followed the Q&A session while petting Plagg all the while. She was now sprawled on the left side of his bed, using clothes she stole from his closet without shame or hesitation, completely conked out and softly snoring. After his first go-around, Ninth learned how important it was to have people to share secrets with, and how it made the weight in his chest a little more bearable. Ninth didn't have the luxury to crash and burn, he had to keep up until the finish line was crossed. Your own kitten is quite the piece of work, eh? Plagg commented from his nest on a pillow he declared as his. I'm telling you, Ninth hasn't attract small things quirk, but it only works by bringing troubled kids for him to raise. Seventh snorted at Ninth's flat stare. The woman ran her ghostly fingers through Chloe's now loose hair, you should have seen it. Chloe was this little brat who treated everyone like garbage to try being like her witch of a mother, but it only took one stern talk from Ninth for her to drop it. Then he went all Dad Deku, trademark pending, on her. You're exaggerating. Quiet. Plagg shushed Ninth, then turned back to the vestige with trilled eyes, please continue. They shared a cat-like grin, and Ninth decided he had more to gain getting ready for bed. Putting on some comfortable clothes, getting his emergency kit for the off chance someone tries to get him in his sleep, and tucking himself on the right side of the honestly far too big bed, Ninth ignored the two gremlins laughing at his expense. Laying down, staring at the ceiling for what felt like an eternity, Ninth finally worked up the courage to ask the one question that had tormented him for 14 years, how did I get here? Plagg and Nana stopped their gossip to look at him. The Kwami let out an exasperated sigh, can I be brutally honest? If you don't mind being detailed too. Sure, why not? The cat shrugged, getting comfortable for what felt would be a lengthy talk. The shortest answer is, you got lucky. Shut. Let me explain. Plagg stopped his tirade before it could start, knowing well Ninth's feelings on the matter. All the things that needed to happen exactly like they happened to achieve this result was a chance in a septillion, at best. You got lucky in the sense of how improbable it was for that to happen, now if it was good or bad luck. That's a matter of point of view. Weren't you also a manifestation of bad luck? Shouldn't you know? It's exactly why I know it. If I ask you, you'll say it's the worst thing to ever happen to you. If I ask Sleeping Beauty over there, she'll say it was the best thing to ever happen to her and a million other people too. He snickered a laugh, that's why the cat and the ladybug have to be together, they were two sides of the same coin. And how did it happen, exactly? That was what Ninth wanted to know. He would think about the merit of the good he was able to do thanks to it later, probably on his deathbed. That's a little more complicated. You see, everyone has a weight to them, at least that's the simplest way for you to understand it. Those who affect little in their life are lighter, not that they're unimportant, just not as important comparatively. Plagg lightly pushed down on his fluffy perch to illustrate, not leaving many marks and them being close to his pawn. The people that change the world. Those are a lot heavier. All that weight attracts things, it leaves a mark, and that's why they are remembered centuries later. He pushed harder, making an indentation. After pulling back his paw, the pillowcase remained ruffled. Ninth would need to write all that down later. I'm following you. The weight some people have makes it easier to leave their mark, but what does it have to do with me? Plagg gave Ninth a flat look. Kitten, imagine if from one moment to the other, your whole species spontaneously sprouted superpowers left and right. It as a whole would become heavier. Actually, it would become so heavy so quickly your world would implode from the weight, metaphysically speaking. He rolled his eyes, that's not good for anyone, so reality tends to autocorrect in those cases. Not fun, let me tell you. Ninth could imagine, even if it added a whole new form of existential dread to the pile. The next few decades would be a nightmare. But it didn't. Thanks to Yoichi Shigaraki. Plagg broke down cackling, oh, this kid. Thanks to who he was, added to his fancily named Quirk, Yoichi Shigaraki had just enough weight to hold your world together but not enough to break it himself. You kittens are all too lucky. Ha! That revelation gave Ninth a whole new level of respect for the first. So, without one for all, the human race would have been, retconned. But that means dash. No. Plagg stopped laughing, his tone becoming grave and cutting Ninth off sharply. All for one was a cancer that spawned from your race's metamorphosis. He would have made it rot and die. That's why creation needs destruction. When mistakes like that happen, you can remove them. He stretched just enough to pat Ninth on the cheek, like you did. Good job, kitten, your world can recover and go back to growing safely thanks to you. Ninth took in a shuddering breath. His throat was clogged and his chest felt tight. Thanks. Plagg nodded and waited for him to recompose himself enough to finish listening. When his breath went back to normal, the Kwami continued, the thing is, kitten, you yourself were already very heavy before you got one for all. With it, you turned into the center point, for lack of a better term. Your actions have steered the course of your world in a new direction. Plagg also stared up at the ceiling, seemingly lost in thought. I know you don't think so, but you did good. You did more good than you could ever imagine. All that good added up, which in turn made your soul gain just enough weight to it so when you went through the reincarnation cycle, it didn't get your sense of self washed away. Ninth blinked slowly, 2 times, when someone dies, they reincarnate. That's what happens. He wasn't expecting such a direct confirmation. One of the most significant questions humanity ever faced was answered just like that. Yes and no. Ninth spoke too soon. I could go into the lengthy details of how things actually work, but that would take years and you mortals haven't come up with words for most of the things I would need to tell you. Plagg huffed, shaking his head as if disappointed. I'm just giving you the barest of bones so you can have an idea. Calling it a cycle is already stretching it, believe it or not. It's just that there is an analogy to it as you are alive, then you're dead, then you're alive again, on and on as you go through your own journey. Plagg, I already have enough intrusive thoughts keeping me up at night. Can you please not give me more sources of anxiety? The wise sage shtick that Plagg was doing to mess with Ninth wasn't amusing to the boy in the slightest. Sure. The Kwami snickered before falling silent. After a long moment, he finished his little lesson on how the universe worked behind the scenes. Your soul got washed by the tides, kitten, like every other one. But as some rare few, you endured. I am sure you have no memory of it at all, your mind just isn't built to handle that kind of experience, but through grit and luck, you got yourself to the other side in one piece. Plagg finally moved his eyes to Ninth once again. I am that part of the wheel, little kitten. I know every single spark that crosses to it and that leaves it back to this side. The ones that do what you did. They are hard to come by even to my standards, but oh if they don't prove they are worthy of it. The deep silence that followed was solemn but in a respectful way. It reminded Ninth of the funerals of heroes who laid down their lives in the line of duty. Plagg spoke again, and he sounded wistful. If Ninth had to put a word to it, you showed you're a spunky one, but you are so lucky, kitten. One for all, and its ability to store a piece of the holder's souls is the least impressive part of it. It kept all of your egos intact. By ego you mean your personality, your character, your definite traits as an individual. All of them, perfectly safe, to just leap back at the thick of things like the selfless brats you are. Plagg exhaled a heavy sigh, making the tiny feline sound as old as he probably was. If only. Ah, all the kittens who deserved better, who deserved another chance. Slitted green orbs met glowing green ones, don't waste your chance. I won't. I'll make sure you won't. Yes, what happened to Ninth was something that a human being wasn't prepared for, but he was sure no one was ready for most things that happened in his life, in both of his lives. He faced villains, criminals, bioweapons, wars, and a blight wishing to destroy the whole world. He survived magic, monsters, and whatever else the future was cooking up. Ninth wouldn't give up. He couldn't. Everyone was counting on him. Good night, Plagg. Night, kitten. Ninth closed his eyes. All too quickly, sleep claimed him, and for the first time in years, he drifted off to a peaceful slumber, feeling lighter than he had in a very long time. Marinette. Wake up. The girl groaned while rising up. She blinked groggy eyes, her vision slowly focusing to see Tiki floating before her face. It wasn't a dream. No, it wasn't. Tiki patted her cheek gently, everything yesterday really happened. And all things considered, they went really well. Marinette rubbed her face. She wasn't ready to deal with that. You say that, but you gave me an earful about not catching the Akuma. Or fixing the city with the miraculous cure. And you also complained about how I left everything to Deku. The Kwami shook her head. It wasn't an earful, I was just a bit heated. I explained to you your powers, which was more than Plagg apparently did, you should have used them. She poked Marinette's nose, and you didn't leave everything to Deku, you helped too. But think about it for a moment, could you have done things better? She sighed, yes. Which was the truth. If Marinette hadn't taken so long to work up the courage to trip Stoneheart, they could have ended the fight faster, which would have caused less damage and Deku wouldn't have probably been as hurt, probably. And if she had remembered the cure, she could have fixed it all. Ugh, the whole thing could have gone better. Hey, the blame for it is not only yours. Plagg could have explained things to his chosen better. Deku didn't even use his miraculous magic at all, he was only using his dash. Tiki cut herself, realizing she was about to say more than she should in the heat of the moment. Marinette caught the slip, you know what the powers Deku was using were, don't you? Why did they hurt him? That isn't my story to tell. Tiki gave Marinette a look that reminded the girl of her mother's. If you want to know, ask him. If he feels comfortable telling you, then okay, but if he doesn't, you shouldn't push him. But he got hurt. Marinette still felt queasy at the memory of his bleeding arm. If only she had acted sooner. Did things better. The Kwami's face softened. I know you're worried, but if you want to enact change, you have to achieve it with your own efforts. Translating, SCK it up and start acting instead of whining about it. Marinette only nodded and got up. The clock was thickening and she had school today. Here was hoping she could act normal, instead of having a meltdown when everyone started talking about what happened yesterday. After freshening up and changing into the same clothes she usually wore for school, Marinette grabbed her purse, stopping briefly to look at Tiki. Are you going to stay here or? The Kwami gave her a flat look, and what if there's an attack while you're out there? Fair. Can you stay inside my purse? I'll clear a spot and grab some macarons downstairs for you. Yes. The tiny goddess fist bumped. At Marinette's snicker, she coughed on her hand, I mean yes, that's fine. Okay then. Following their plan, Marinette was out of the bakery minutes later. She crossed the street and entered the school, already noticing the whispers and conversations. Everybody was talking about the disaster yesterday. From people who were there and saw it firsthand to those who hadn't even felt the tremors of Deku's clash with Stoneheart, everyone had learned about it from the news, social media, or the police conference that had apparently happened late in the past night. Marinette was acutely aware of every word flying around her, unfortunately, that caused her to hyperfixate so much that she didn't realize where she was going. Ouch! Marinette held her nose, feeling like she had smashed it on a wall. For all the impact the girl caused the other person, she might as well have. Holy SHT, she really did crash into you. Chloe's comment was as dry as her stare, which only made Marinette blush in embarrassment. My life is a lie. Adrien shot her a very pointed look before checking if Marinette was okay. Are you hurt? No, it's fine. She waved his hand away, noticing then that they were bandaged. Are you? Chloe didn't let him respond, as he went ballistic on his poor punching bag. The thing looked like a gorilla had gone to town on it. Har har. Adrien walked past his sister. Marinette fully bought the idea from how much those two bickered. I'm fine, just some scraps. Let's go, I want to check on Ivan before class starts. Marinette panicked. What, why? Did he? The police report explained how he was a victim who was forced to cause all the destruction yesterday by a third party. I want to make sure he's recovering. Adrien glanced at the people gossiping, a frown firmly on his face. Still, from the way he got a target painted on his back by it, I wouldn't put past some people to make things hard for him. Marinette felt something bitter in her tongue. Did they accuse him? Chloe linked her arm with Marinette's, drawing her closer and whispering, not openly, but some people hadn't bought he was being controlled. Deku's report after the fight, and the fact he was the one to put down Stoneheart, gave just enough credence to it to shut some idiots up. The blonde sighed, a grim air overtaking her, but not all of them. If that girl in red hadn't saved everyone in the scene before it all really went to hell, I bet Ivan would be behind bars by now. Marinette stumbled, not even acknowledging that Chloe caught her. No, they couldn't. It wasn't Ivan's fault. It wasn't. He was innocent in all that. Ivan had been so scared when they rescued him, there was no way he could have done it on purpose. She felt a light chop on her head, breaking Marinette from her spiral. Looking up while rubbing the sore spot with her free hand, she saw Chloe giving her a knowing look. Breath, Mari. There's no reason to work yourself into a fit. We're not letting Ivan get the blame, and in the worst case, we can always stage a revolution. The girls traded a chuckle. I already said no guillotines, Chloe. Spoil sport. Now come on, let's check on our resident controversial celebrity and see how he's holding up. The blonde pulled her along, making sure no more crashes would happen. That gave Marinette time to focus on her thoughts. She may not be that great as a superhero, but taking care of her friends. Marinette would show she didn't need magic to help someone out of a bad spot. Ninth pushed through the mob blocking the corridor to his class and entered the room to the sight of every single one of his classmates hounding Ivan's table. Surprisingly, thankfully, they were doing exactly what Ninth had been planning on doing. He smiled slightly at the affirmations of support and worried questions about his health. Looks like he had good people in his class. Walking to Ivan's desk, Ninth nodded at his classmates, who opened the way for him. Hey, Ivan. The taller boy seemed small with his shoulders slumped and chin buried in his chest. He looked at Ninth like a startled animal, scared and a second away from bolting. Why yes. I know things have been hard for you lately, so don't be afraid of asking for help. Ninth handed him a folded notebook page he fished from his hoodie. Here's my contact and the numbers of some people that can help you with what you're going through. If you need anything, just ask. He shot a look at the door, seeing the other students of the school trying to catch glimpses inside, and if anyone tries to give you trouble, just tell me. I'll handle it. Thanks. Ivan accepted the gesture, relaxing his posture some. If even someone that doesn't know me believes I didn't mean for any of that to happen, then I still have hope. Ninth nodded at the boy, one of his hero's smiles making its way to his face. With his piece said, Ninth left Ivan to be with his friends and went to his seat. Nino was already there, giving him a knowing smile. Nice one, dude. I just did what anyone should. Yeah, but only good people do that. Nino extended his fist to Ninth. You're alright, dude. Green eyes widened. Ninth shook his head and looked away. You don't know me. But I want to. He wriggled his fist. Come on, don't leave me hanging. Ninth stared at him for a moment, something that he thought long lost steering back in his chest. Maybe, just maybe. Maybe Ninth could accept making a friend. Fine. They pumped fists. At Nino's smiling face, Ninth found himself remembering that no man was an island. Lone pillars crumbled, and Ninth didn't have the luxury. Or that was what he told himself. Truth be told, Ninth just wanted a friend. So dude, what do you listen to? Nino gestured to his headphones to clear what he was talking about. Well, he had some recommendations of classic bands 2 centuries in the future that were starting out today. Marinette waited for the bell for lunch break to make her move. When Ivan, still looking down, lingered in the classroom for a little too long, she walked to his desk and sat beside the boy. I know what you're gonna say. Ivan rubbed his face, looking tired. I am self-aware enough to know I'm not fine, but that's fine too, right? I don't need to be fine all the time. She let him finish, then pointed out gently, that's true, but you can't close yourself when you're not fine too. A tired sigh escaped Ivan. He rubbed his eyes, displaying his lack of energy clearly. By the eye bags, he hadn't slept much, if at all. Promise you won't tell anyone? I promise. Marinette had known Ivan for years. Had helped him many times before, even with sensitive problems. More than that, she always made sure to listen without ever judging. That combination of factors was what gave Ivan the confidence to start speaking. The problem isn't that that thing took over and started destroying the city. The problem is that I don't know how it did it, where it came from. I don't know if it's gonna come back to finish the job. Marinette bit her lip. Ivan, and all of Paris, weren't safe. They wouldn't be until she, along with Deku, took down the person who stole the butterfly Miraculous. Still, everything wasn't lost, I think. I think you are stronger than you realize. Marinette held his arm in a show of support and to convey the sincerity of her words. Ivan, you survived that disaster. You held up long enough for Deku to come save you. You came to school today. If it was me, I wouldn't have gotten out of bed. The boy opened the smallest of smiles. That's not much coming from the person that always oversleeps. Maybe. She let the jab slide, thankful that the boy had cheered up a little. Either way, you got this. Ivan looked down at his things over the desk, eyes fixed on his notebook. I am not so sure about that. Marinette tilted her head. Why do you say that? Ivan shot her a glance before quickly averting her gaze. Before, you know, that, I was trying to come up with a way to confess to Mileen. In a truly heroic display of effort, Marinette didn't squeal, no matter how much her inner romantic was leaping with joy. You finally decided to do it? She spoke gently, but her big grin still earned a deadpan from Ivan. He scratched his head, considering something before shrugging and opening his notebook, showing Marinette a torn page that was ripped in half. I was making a script to figure out what to say, but I just couldn't. Everything I wrote ended up sounding so weird, and I got frustrated. I bet that didn't help. No. Ivan shrugged. When I got angry I ripped the page out, and then the next thing I knew, I was trapped and Stoneheart was rampaging. At least he was distinguishing between the two. Ivan wasn't that monster, no matter what anyone said. You still gonna do it? I think I lost my chance. The boy slumped, a morose sadness washing over him. After what happened, who would want to be with me? Marinette's frown was quickly hidden. That wouldn't do. Hasn't she come to say something to you? Yeah. Something along the lines of that. Wasn't you? And maybe, if you want to talk, I'm here, by any chance. Yeah. So. Ivan sighed, huffed, slapped his cheeks, and ultimately grabbed his pen and opened his notebook to a blank page. I think the worst has already happened and I can only go up from here. The smaller teen opened a brilliant smile. I wholeheartedly agree with the going up part. Now come on, let's do this. You're gonna help. Marinette gave him a blank look. The fact you think there's a universe I wouldn't deeply offend me. Ivan raised his hands in surrender, the smallest of grins on his tired face. He was right, things could only go up from there. Thanks for helping me, Mileen. The shorter girl gave Chloe a shy smile. It's nothing. Sabrina asked me to cover for her, and I couldn't let our class president do everything on her own. She fumbled with the band, pulling her wheat-colored, curly locks back. She's okay, right? Chloe adjusted her sunglasses, more or less. Her dad had come home only this morning thanks to the chaos the Paris PD turned into. She decided to skip school to take care of him, at least until he has to return to his patrol route. Every officer available was told to cut distractions short and be on the street to make presents. For all the good it would do when pitted against something that gave Azzy of all people trouble. Oh. It was a testament to the aspiring actress's skill that a single sound conveyed all the turmoil in her head. She handed Chloe another one of the equipment reports, the blonde scanning the contents and checking the item in question. Do you think it will happen again? Yup. Chloe put a tally on the list. They would need to get a new volleyball net soon, preferably before the current one snapped in the middle of a game. She went to give the polls a look, expanding on her thoughts to Mileen. Think about it. Ivan was controlled by a still unknown third party, one that everything indicates that can do so again. We don't know what they can or can't do, so for now we have to assume and prepare for the worst. She turned to the chubbier girl, seeing her pale. Okay, Chloe needed to backtrack a little before she gave poor Mileen a panic attack, that being, it will happen again and we will need to hold the fort long enough for Deku to show up. Oh, right. Mileen sneaked a glance back, seeing the storeroom the school had reserved for the sports equipment was completely empty save the two. What do you think about them? The heroes, I mean. Chloe made a conscious effort to not react. She didn't know Deku, didn't know who he was, didn't know what he was capable of. From an unrelated perspective, she had that one case to speak from. Deku showed he can take on something like Stoneheart down. I doubt he will have much trouble in the case it happens again. The problem is making sure no one gets hurt, or worse, in the time he'll take to get there. Mileen nodded, following along her logic. You're right. It's just that he also really messed up the street they were fighting on. Controlled collateral. Chloe shrugged, not much bothered by the asinine argument some idiots were using to throw flack at the person that saved their hides. He made sure the damage was focused on one place, and it's easy to rebuild. You know what's not easy, telling families they won't ever see one of their members again. She stopped, recovering from her snap with a deep breath. Mileen didn't deserve to deal with Chloe's anger when she had nothing to do with it. I think everybody should get their priorities straight. You can remedy the effects of a crisis after it passes, and this one just began, so better figure out how to survive it first. Yeah. Mileen patted Chloe's arm reassuringly, seeing the girl was very stressed by the subject. And hey, it's not like Deku is our only hope. His partner protected everyone while he was fighting. She even pulled my dad away from the line of fire. At Mileen's cheer, Chloe gained an awkward expression. Her. Ugh, can I be brutally honest? Mileen blinked, confused by her reaction, but nodded. Chloe held the bridge of her nose and let out a sigh. Nuwa, as Chloe knew thanks to Azzy, was a bittersweet topic to her. I honestly don't know if I want to give that girl a hug or chop her on the head. On one hand, she did good and helped Chloe's brother out of a tough spot. On the other, Noir obviously had no idea what she was doing, but even then, she could do more than Chloe. Gratefulness and jealousy turned into a weird mix that left Chloe's opinion about Noir very divided, to say the least. What? Why? That girl had her heart in the right place, but I don't think she understands the consequences of her actions. Just as Chloe said that, Marinette barged into the room. Her eyes zeroed in on Mileen, then Chloe. I'm so glad I found you. I need you to come with me right now. The shorter girl snatched her blonde friend's arm and dragged her away, yelling over her shoulder, "You better wait here, Mileen, we know how skittish you are, so it's best if you don't see it." "See what?" "Just stay here." Marinette pushed through the door, quickly rushing to a corner with a complaining Chloe in tow. "What are you doing? What happened?" The aspiring designer let go of her friend and turned to her so fast Chloe was worried she got whiplash. "Ivan wants to confess to Mileen." Chloe blinked once, twice, 3 times, in any other case, would say F finally. Unfortunately, this is possibly the only time this is bad. Marinette let out an offended squawk. "What? Why? They would be so good together." "Mari, sweetheart, follow me for a second." Chloe spoke as if to a toddler. "Ivan got through a very traumatic experience, his emotions are all over the place. You really think it's a good idea to put him in another stressful situation, not a day, 24 hours, later?" "Oh. Yeah, oh." Chloe rolled her eyes, exasperated at her friend's antics. "Now we have to go find Ivan and explain to him that he should wait until he's in a better headspace before doing anything." About that." An awkward and weak laugh escaped Marinette, the girl fidgeting like a mouse. Chloe let her head fall. "You got me out of the room so he could be alone with her, didn't you?" "Yes." The admittance was almost gloomy. At least Marinette understood how much she messed up. SHT. After huffing a swear in English, something she got from Azzy, Chloe spun on her heels and bolted back to the storage room. Marinette followed her close behind, or as close as she could manage with her shorter legs. The thought was mean, but Chloe felt she got a pass thanks to how peeved she was. Just as the blonde reached the door, it burst open. Mileen ran out and away faster than Chloe had ever seen her move. Ivan also exited the room a moment later, red-faced and with tears in his eyes. "Mileen, wait!" he shouted at the girls retreating back. When she didn't turn back, Ivan broke out in a sprint in the opposite direction. SHT. Chloe looked from one side to the other, her dread pooling at the sight of the fleeing teens. By what Plagg told her, emotional distress was a surefire way for the butterfly Miraculous to take hold of an unwilling person, and now both Ivan and Mileen were very distressed. Chloe needed to do something now, but she couldn't be in 2 places at once. Thankfully, she didn't need to. "I'll go after Ivan, you get Mileen." Marinette clapped Chloe's shoulders, her blue eyes set. "Let me fix my mess. I trust you with her." Chloe slapped her cheeks and nodded. "Let's go." They broke off and rushed after their respective targets. Maybe Chloe couldn't help with the fighting part, but she sure could try preventing things from reaching that point in the first place. Plus ultra. She muttered under her breath, "Time to give it her all." A black butterfly lazily flew, carried by the wind. Each of its wing beats was a prelude to the disaster it was about to cause. The magic tainting it grew and grew, multiplying and mutating like a virus. It had one goal carved into its being, and when the time came, it gently descended into the poor boy who just had his heart broken. Huh. Ivan looked up from the page he had poured his heart into with Marinette's help, just in time to see a familiar butterfly approaching him. Something in the back of his head told Ivan to run, to get away from it the fastest his legs could carry him. Unfortunately, it was too little, too late. The butterfly touched the paper. The last thing Ivan saw before his vision went dark were countless butterflies, each black as pitch, bursting from the paper in his hand. Marinette had only just reached the school's courtyard where she saw Ivan running towards moments before when all hell broke loose. No one can hurt me, I am indestructible. I am, Stoneheart. The Akumas, as Tiki told her they were called, roar was so loud the windows shook. The rock titan started marching, going straight through walls while not even slowing down. OCRP. Marinette dove out of the way, quickly hiding behind the bleachers, CRP 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 CRP. She opened her purse, panic in her every movement. What had she done? Ivan got akumatized again, and it was all her fault. No, focus. Marinette said she would fix her mess, so that's what she was going to do, Tiki. The Kwami flew out of her purse, quickly checking to see if no one was looking. That done, Tiki nodded to herself, okay, the coast is clear. Remember, use your powers, don't be afraid, and when everything is over use the miraculous cure. She nodded, determined to do things better this time. It was all too much, but that didn't change the fact someone had to do this. She already cried about it, as Deku told her to, and it had helped. Now, it was time to grit her teeth and fight. Then why did Marinette feel her body locking up? Her mouth refused to open and utter the phrase to transform. Tiki's eyes softened, the Kwami floating closer and putting a hand on Marinette's cheek. I know you can do it, my little bug. Believe in yourself, even if it's hard, then you will see it too. Closing her eyes to stop tears from escaping, Marinette took in a shaky breath. It was too much, it would never stop being too much, not as long as she refused to face it. Life waited for no one, so what she could do was her best, and pray it was enough. Like her chosen name, she had to put the world back together. Success or failure, Marinette would only know what awaited her if she tried. She said it once already, she refused to be useless. Tiki, spots on. Mileen. Chloe skidded down a curve, quickly following the path she saw her friend taking. She glanced into class and art rooms, praying it wasn't too late, when finally, Chloe spotted her in the sculpturing club room, Mileen. The crying girl jumped, startled by the shout. When Mileen turned, the wet smile on her face made Chloe stop dead in her tracks. He likes me. Was Chloe's very coherent response. Something wasn't adding up. You're not, I don't know, mad. Why would I be? Mileen tried in vain to dry her leaking eyes, a bubble of laughter escaping her. Ivan likes me. I understood that part, but you kinda fled away in tears. Chloe threw her arms up, starting to get heated. Forcing herself to breathe and maintaining a level head, she grasped Mileen's shoulders and made the other girl understand. People usually do that when they don't like what they were told. It finally dawned on Mileen what she had done. Oh, no. He thinks I don't like him back. Have you at least told him that? Mileen put her hands over her mouth, her eyes widening. No. I got so overwhelmed oh no. Okay. Chloe still could salvage this. We still can fix this, we just Chloe was cut off by a resounding quake that shook the building. She and Mileen traded startled looks, both recognizing the feeling. The tremors continued, closer and closer, almost like, look out. Chloe pulled Mileen with her, throwing them to the floor and away from the wall that was demolished a second later by the monster that terrorized Paris the day before. It was back for round 2. Mileen. You can't hurt me, no one can. Not anymore. Stoneheart mumbled, almost as if talking to itself. It approached the two fallen and dazed girls and took Mileen in its colossal left hand. Chloe shook herself from her stupor seeing that. Oh no, you don't. She scrambled to her feet, snatching a chisel that was flung close by on her way. Chloe would never complain about the clubs asking for more supplies ever again after that day. The blonde adjusted her sunglasses. Time to do something stupid and reckless, just like Azzy. When Stoneheart went through the wall leading outside, right side first to shield its prisoner, Chloe bolted. She used one of the work tables as a stepping stone, leaping and latching onto Stoneheart's arm. Chloe. Mileen reached for the blonde, having her arms free from her rocky prison. She grabbed her left arm, holding the girl the best she could. Raising her right hand, chisel in her grasp, Chloe started to chip away at the giant limb. Don't worry Mileen, I'll get you out. Stoneheart stopped for a moment to glare at Chloe, the blonde meeting its glowing eyes and not backing down. The Akuma only huffed, resuming its march without even bothering to shake her off. Chloe gasped at the dismissal, it's on now, rocks for brains. She redoubled her efforts, stabbing the chisel into the boulders forming Stoneheart's arm and chipping it away a pebble at a time. Chloe, it's too dangerous. Mileen did her best to keep her friend from falling, her arms shaking with the strain. She wouldn't be able to hold up for long. Go. Get away from here. Shut up and let me save you. She sent a particularly large chunk flying with a well-placed stab. I'm done being useless. I'm gonna save you and then both of us are getting away from here. Another strike sent earthen debris flying. You hear me? Why yes. Mileen fought back tears while doing her best to not let go of Chloe's arm. Stoneheart carved its way through Paris, with people trying desperately to get away from it. Unimpeded, the Akuma roared, making black butterflies come out of its mouth like a geyser. They flew away, landing on fearful civilians and turning them into stone statues. Stoneheart ignored the gasps of the girls on its arm, finally getting to its destination. Eiffel Tower. There was where it needed to go, where he commanded it to go. Stoneheart used its free arm to climb the tower, unafraid. There was no reason for it to be afraid, no one could hurt it, not anymore, never again. Stop this already. Chloe's shout was accompanied by her burying her improvised weapon into Stoneheart's arm. The Akuma flinched. No, never again. It roared and snatched Chloe with its free hand, throwing the girl away. Chloe could barely register Mileen's cries, or the wind howling, her mind too filled with static. That was it, huh? The tragic ending of Chloe Bourgeois, the girl who tried her best to be a hero and came up short. Damn it, Azzy better get back at that DMN mud doll and save Mileen. Just as Chloe came to terms with her, probably painful, end, a red and black figure caught her. They landed softly, even after falling several stories. Chloe was gently lowered to the ground, her savior checking her for wounds. Are you okay? Well, at least now Chloe knew where her opinion on Noir landed. She pulled the heroine into a hug, thanks. Noir was startled but returned it shortly before pushing away and helping Chloe stand up. The blonde noticed first that Noir was short and secondly that she was using a new getup. While her blue hair was still tied in pigtails and her face was covered by a red with black spots domino mask, everything else was different. She was wearing a red qipao with black dots in diamond formations over it. Under the Chinese dress was a black long-sleeved shirt, the sleeves baggy and with red dots marking it, red wraps protecting her wrists and connecting the fingerless black gloves on her hands to the sleeves. Covering her legs were equally baggy black pants, those with red dots running down the sides of her legs. On her waist a red and black belt had her yo-yo clipped on the side. To top it all off, a pair of red shoes that reminded Chloe painfully of Azzy's, Noir's only being different because of the black dots. Chloe finished giving Noir a once-over and nodded, not bad. Thanks. Noir looked down at herself with a smile, can't go saving Paris in a boring costume, can I now? Their moment was interrupted by the ear-bursting sound of metal tearing. They looked up, just in time to see a steel beam flying at their position. Noir grabbed Chloe and was about to jump away when a familiar green and black blur fell right before them. Deku grabbed the multiple-ton beam with his bare hands, the lightning over him flaring for a moment. With a grunt of effort, he threw it away, thankfully at an empty spot in the park under the tower. You two okay? Yes. For someone who almost died 2 times in the last 2 minutes, yeah. The sharp look she got from Deku told Chloe they would have a lengthy talk about that later. Keeping appearances was the only reason he refrained from chewing Chloe right then and there. Not wanting to be called out in some distant and professional way, Chloe changed the subject. Why took you so long to show up? The statues. He turned to his partner. People turned to stone come alive a few minutes later. Noir, you can turn them back, right? I should. She didn't appear very certain. At least in theory. But wait, how are you here then? You left the statues to run around just like that? No, I made a cage with the vehicles on the streets, that should hold them for some time. Deku huffed, shaking his head. Let's just hope everybody has their insurance up to date. Casual snark, if he's at that level of stress then things were under control. What about the big bad up there? We need to take it down and save Mileen. The hero gave Chloe a pointed glance. You need to evacuate, let us dash. Deku cut himself and snapped his head up, in Stoneheart's direction, SHT. He muttered in English. Without wasting another second, he grabbed Chloe and Noir, earning yelps from them both, and leaped away. In a single bound, he covered all the distance to the street where police cars were already piling up to make a defense line. If Noir's landing was soft and graceful, then Deku's was the definition of brutal efficiency. His legs kicked out, soles burying into the street and cracking asphalt. With all their momentum sharply arrested, they came to a stop with a jolt. Deku put them down, eyes never leaving Stoneheart. Chloe would have followed his gaze if a voice she knew very well hadn't called her name. The girl turned, stunned. Dad? Mayor Bourgeois, still in the suit he usually wore while in office, disregarded the police officers trying to pull him to safety and rushed to his daughter. He pulled her into a quick hug. Chloe, thank goodness. He checked her over, sighing in relief seeing she was mostly fine. I was so scared. What were you thinking? I didn't, my body just moved on its own. The brief thought that Azzy would do the same went through her head, but Chloe was too busy being reckless to give it much attention. Oh, Chloe. Her father sighed, exhausted, exasperated, and somewhat proud. You two need to get back. Deku's shout made both father and daughter jump. The hero had dropped in a low stance, ready to jump at the first sight of danger. If that was away or towards it remained to be seen. Chloe took the moment to finally raise her eyes to see what got her brother so rattled. Stoneheart had dark smoke coming from its mouth. The golem roared again, the sound accompanied by countless black butterflies flying out of it. What's that thing? Worry about it later. Noir, grab them and fall back. I'm not leaving you alone against that. The heroine pulled up her yo-yo and started spinning it. I'm done being useless. You're not dash. Whatever Deku was about to say was forever lost as the mass of butterflies converged. Looking down at Paris was the head of a man, made of innumerable dark butterfly wings beating together. Citizens of Paris. I am Hawk Moth. The cold and detached voice thundered through every corner of the city. This is my ultimatum, surrender the cat and ladybug miraculous to me, and the city will be spared. Get real. Both Noir and Deku shouted at the exact same time. Their faces were set in glares that would have sent weaker-willed people running. You think we will hand more power to a terrorist? There's no reason to trust your word after what you have done. This city doesn't need you, it has us. And as long as we are here, we won't let you destroy it. They, once more in perfect synchrony, pointed at the mass of butterflies. We'll take your miraculous and save Paris. Hawk Moth, as if a god looking down at foolish mortals who dared defy his will, sneered condescendingly, so be it. The mass lost coherence, turning into an amorphous black cloud that quickly descended. Noir. Deku shouted for his partner, legs bending and lightning building up, protect the civilians. What are you gonna do? Something reckless. With that said, Deku leaped at the colossal mass of butterflies buzzing with Hawk Moth's magic. Noir stood shocked for a moment before shaking herself and moving. "I'll get you both out of here." "Wait dash." Before Chloe or her father could protest, Noir picked them up and jumped behind the defense line. In the air, Deku held his right wrist with a hand, power flooding his finger. He took aim, red lines shining through the cracks of his gauntlet. 50%. The lightning screamed while jumping over his hand. 70%. He focused, old instincts surfacing in that familiar moment of fear being swept in the rush. 100% Delaware smash. He flicked his finger. A sound similar to a bomb going off rattled Paris. Through that single movement of his finger, Deku created a wave of raging wind so strong it tore through the mass of butterflies. They fell, fading away into black particles as the currents ripped them apart. As for Deku, physics did their job and sent the boy flying in the opposite direction like a bullet. He flipped, bleeding what momentum he could before landing. Exerting some measure of control with float, Deku touched down harshly in the middle of the defense line. Everyone around watched him with mixes of awe and wariness, shocked silent by his display of power. "Almost everyone, you okay?" Noir slipped close to Deku, seeing him. Holding his hand and an unnaturally crooked and certainly broken finger. "I'm fine." She gave Deku a look, too many emotions behind it for him to piece out. He would deal with it later. "We need to rescue the civilians and subdue Stoneheart." "And how do you plan on doing that?" Chloe was the one to ask, ignoring her father's worried fumbling. "They're in a horrible position, and you can't go all out without hurting Mileen." Noir looked up at the tower, where Stoneheart seemed content to look down on them. Balling her fists, she came to a decision. "Maybe I can help with that." She grabbed her yo-yo, focusing on the warmth of her miraculous, she launched it up. Lucky charm. A reddish light blinded all eyes that followed the yo-yo. When it faded, in Noir's hands fell the yo-yo and a new item. A sculpting hammer. The tool was red and marked with black dots, but beyond that, it was like any other one. I stabbed a chisel in Stoneheart's arm, the one holding Mileen. Deku and Noir's heads snapped to Chloe at her words, then at Stoneheart, to the hammer, and finally they turned to each other, eyes shining with the same idea. I break the arm. I catch Mileen. And I take it down. How? As an answer, Deku started doing crouches. With everybody busy looking at him weirdly, no one saw Chloe's eyes widening. Deku's legs were covered by a red glow, 2 rings of energy forming over his knees. With this, FANFICTION will give me the push I need, but I'll only have one shot. His body still wasn't ready for the quirk, using it instead of a bigger portion of one for all would only do marginally less damage. Still better than turning his bones into confetti though. Noir looked at him with uncertainty for a second before shaking her head and nodding, "Let's make it count then." She spoke with more vigor than she felt. "I plan to. Let's go." At his signal, Deku hopped over the police cars. Noir followed a moment later, trying her best to keep up with his strides. Longer legs and super speed was an unfair combo. She threw her yo-yo, the magic tool zipping away and latching onto one of the beams of the Eiffel Tower. Noir pulled, and in a moment she was flying up. Using her yo-yo, she climbed the structure from what she hoped was Stoneheart's blind spot. There was no need to bother. Deku had captured the Akuma's complete attention by going straight at it with a single bound. With the green, black, and now with a touch of red, comet in collision course to it, Stoneheart didn't even notice Noir approaching. "Get away from me." Stoneheart ripped another part of the tower and threw it at Deku. "You can't hurt me, no one can." "Wanna bet?" Deku punched the steel beam away, not slowing down on his way. He saw the chisel, nailed onto Stoneheart's arm and creating the perfect structural fault on the golem. Mileen was close to it. The girl cried while pleading for Stoneheart to stop. Deku was not letting her cry for long. He was done with people suffering because of madmen with too much power and not a drop of empathy. He was tired of losing. The voice that sounded suspiciously like Kaken taunted in his mind, then stop crying and win. Well, let no one say insanity didn't have upsides too. 2 strands of black whip shot from his hands, latching on the structure and having Stoneheart right in the middle of them. Deku slingshot himself at the Akuma, too fast for it to react. Smash! His shout was accompanied by his metal saws driving the chisel deeper, the impact breaking the stone arm clean off. Before the damage could reach Mileen, Deku gritted his teeth and activated gearshift, transmission, low. Physics were overwritten, the kinetic energy simply ceasing to exist and leaving the girl unharmed. Unceremoniously, Mileen and Stoneheart arm parts fell, almost comically slow. With a whistle, Nuwa's yo-yo lassoed Mileen and pulled her to the heroine waiting arms. "I got you." Whatever thankful words she was about to say were drowned by Stoneheart's painful cry. The Akuma trashed around, its arm intending to swat Deku like a fly. The hero gritted his teeth and activated smokescreen. Purple mist exploded from his form violently, obscuring Stoneheart's vision and making the Akuma miss its target. From the edge of the purple cloud, Deku appeared. His skin was red and irritated from the 6th quirk, but he powered through the maddening itch to circle Stoneheart. He reared his left leg back, the red glow covering it brightening. Deku kicked Stoneheart square on the back, a red ring of energy spreading from the point of impact. The force was so great that not only cracked most of the Akuma's torso but sent it flying away from the tower. Not stopping, Deku dashed after the flailing Stoneheart. The golem spun head over heels, its glowing eyes wide at the sight of Deku giving chase. As a replay of the day before, the hero raised his leg, foot glowing with power. This time, stay down. St. Louis smash. Deku snapped his leg down. Stoneheart was spiked downward with the speed of a meteor, the impact so strong it resounded to the whole city. The red circle of energy covered the sky over the Eiffel Tower, while fast winds howled through the park. Stoneheart opened a crater on the ground, breaking it along with itself. The golem barely remained cohesive enough to appear humanoid, its limbs having fallen apart almost completely and its head heavily damaged. From the deeply cracked chest, an arm, made of flesh and clearly human, burst out from the last remains of stone. Another soon followed, a smoking black page in hand. With Herculean effort, the 2 hands picked the edges of the paper and ripped it in half. Ivan took in shallow breaths, his whole body dirty and bruised, but free. He had used all his strength to escape Stoneheart and get rid of the item trapping himself inside the monster, but still, he did it. Deku landed on the giant depression they created in the soil, losing his footing and hitting the ground with a groan almost immediately. "You okay?" A cough escaped Ivan when he tried to speak. Clearing the remnants of dust from his airway, he nodded, "Why yes. The butterfly." He remembered now. It was the butterfly that brought Stoneheart, they needed to get rid of it. Both boys tried to force themselves to their feet, but the strain their bodies sustained piled up, leaving them with barely enough strength to not fall sprawled to the floor. Thankfully, blissfully, help came at that moment. "Ivan." Mileen escaped Nuwa's hold and rushed at the boy the moment their feet touched down. She held him up, tears in her eyes. "Ivan, I'm so glad you're okay." She pulled him into a hug, not even noticing the dirt clinging to him. Deku only had time to spare them a glance. "Nuwa." He pushed himself up with his unbroken hand, punching that steel beam with a broken finger wasn't his best idea. Deku could focus on how rusty he was later. Now, the Akuma. Nuwa's eyes widened. She glanced from side to side. There. Trying to fly away was a pitch-black butterfly, its wings ruffled and barely keeping it aloft. The heroine's hand went to her yo-yo, found it. She snapped the magical tool forward, sending it whistling through the air. Just when the yo-yo was about to hit the Akuma, it snapped open and then closed, capturing it. Noir pulled the line and caught the glowing yo-yo head. The light built up, brighter and brighter, until the trinket opened again. From it, a pure white butterfly flew out, its perfect wings beating softly and carrying it into gentle loops. Noir stared at the purified Akuma with her eyes shining. It felt so right to do that, to save even the smallest creature when it needed help. Maybe, just maybe, Noir could really be a hero. Bye-bye, little butterfly. A moment of peace fell on the battlefield, no more reasons to fight leading to a quiet respite. Which was broken by Deku's snickering. Noir, Ivan, and Mileen looked at the hero who had stopped struggling and had his face touching the upturned ground. Sorry, I didn't mean to, I didn't dash. Deku's apologies were interrupted by his fits of laughter. Damn it first. You can't just call a person a Disney princess like that. And am I wrong? The response from his predecessor in his mind caused Deku to break down laughing fully. Surprisingly, Ivan joined him. At first with chuckles that then devolved into a full belly-aching laughter. His relief at having survived all he went through needing some form of release. Their laughter was so contagious it broke the girls' own shock, Mileen and Noir joining them in airing their feelings. Noticing her chest feeling considerably lighter, Noir jumped down the crater to her partner. Come on, let me help you up. She pulled Deku to his feet, hearing him groan. Hairline fractures for sure. He palmed his legs, flinching when touching certain spots. Noir grimaced. Deku hurt himself again. No, this time around she wouldn't let him go away like that. Come on, I can help. He tilted his head, curious at what she meant. Noir helped Deku out of the crater, then went to retrieve Ivan and Mileen. With everybody safe, Noir pulled the lucky charm she had attached to her belt. Just like Tiki said, breathe in, breathe out. Remember the feeling of fixing something, the happiness of putting something precious back together, and then. Miraculous Ladybug. She threw the lucky charm up. The hammer burst into light, countless ladybugs manifesting from it and flying all around. They washed over the destroyed streets, the Eiffel Tower, the people, repairing every damage caused by the battle. Even the ones from the day before were gone as if they never happened in the first place. Deku braced himself, not trying to move only because of the lack of warning from danger sense. Deku didn't believe Noir would do something to hurt him. The ladybugs flew by his body, their soft touch taking the pain away. When they were gone, Deku checked himself and found his wounds gone and bones repaired. He checked his finger, feeling it and noticing how it moved just as well as before he broke it. He turned to Noir, his partner. She looked at him with a smile, happy and proud of what she did. Well done. Deku extended her a fist. Nino's charisma was massive if one talk was everything he needed to make Deku adopt the mannerism, or the hero was just very rusty in showing his feelings properly. Either or. No matter, what did was how Noir's smile brightened and she bumped her fist against his. Thanks. On that day, the heroes Deku and Noir successfully defeated one of Hawk Moth's Akumas and saved Paris. That was the beginning of a tale of strife, of battle, of hope, and of healing. No miraculous cure could heal a broken heart, no magic could. But love, care, and time could. Good afternoon, people of Paris. I'm Alya Césaire, aspiring reporter, bringing to you today's world-changing news. As I'm sure you are all aware, 4 days ago, our city was attacked. Footage of Stoneheart's first rampage started to play, the golem's warpath getting carved on the city as it raged. But not only that, it was saved. Smash! A clip of Deku's arrival at the scene, already cementing himself as an actual, real-life superhero with his feat of strength to rescue one of the officers trying to contain the monster. After that, Noir's mad dash to carry everybody away from the line of fire. I'm here today to cover the debut of Paris' very own heroes. First, by who they are. A new video started, this one having slightly better quality in showing Deku talking to the chief of police. "Son, pardon me, but what the hashtag just happened here?" The hero sighed, going to run a hand through his hair but stopping, remembering how bloody it was. "I'll say what I know, officer. Stoneheart was a minion of a third party who used their powers to enthrall someone and use them to fight. So the kid had nothing to do with it." "No." Deku's voice had turned to steel, unwinding in the promise that Stoneheart and his victim had no relation and it was better no one disagree, or else the culprit behind it can force people to fight for them. The boy trapped inside Stoneheart had no choice, no way to stop it. He's innocent in all this. I will take your word for it. The chief de-escalated the possible argument, conceding the point. But what will we do about the one pulling the strings? We'll find him. Green and black sparks jumped through Deku's form. And we'll make sure he won't hurt anyone else. On that, we agree. The chief offered the hero a handshake. Let's work together to keep our city safe. Deku was caught by surprise, staring at the hand with wide eyes. Slowly, he grasped the offered hand. I expected you would be against working with a vigilante. Kid, I'm not stupid. The chief huffed a laugh. My options are getting half a dozen tanks or trusting the guy who got into a fistfight with a mountain and won. It was more like a small hill than a mountain, but sure. Deku gave the man a nod, a smile tugging the corner of his lips. Cheeky brat. Now run along, we have to clean this mess and you have to take care of that arm. The chief turned his back to the hero and started to walk to his men, offering a last wave over his shoulder, see you around, Deku. That was Deku's brief talk with the police after successfully defeating Stoneheart the first time. Your intrepid reporter got it from an anonymous source with access to the record. You heard the man, whoever let Stoneheart loose in the middle of Paris was manipulating an innocent citizen for it. The victim wished for their name to remain undisclosed, but personally asked to pass their sincere apologies to anyone hurt in the incident. But enough of gloom. More than only Deku protects our city. A news broadcast, made with professional equipment and finally capturing the hero's image clearly began. Deku could be seen escorting two people to a distant police barricade in the background, but the camera focused on Noir. The girl's fidgeting made her seem smaller than she already was. Noir glanced back at Deku, who shot her a thumbs up and mouthed, "You can do it," to her. Something shifted and the girl straightened. Before anything, I want to say something to the people of Paris. You are safe. As long as Deku and I are here, we will protect our city. A reporter out of frame pushed a mic closer to the heroine. That is a very reassuring thing to say in such troubling times. Noir. You can call me Noir. Noir. But still, Paris could use more than that. We had 2 attacks that razed the city in just as many days. I know. And I know that everyone has the right to be scared of what happened. But remember that both times, we won. Noir shot another glance back, seeing Deku talking to the police again. Deku defeated the Akuma twice. I made sure no one got hurt in both accidents too. Yes, things are still bumpy, but we won't give up. She gave the camera a smile, wide and bright. We will defeat Hawk Moth and get Paris its peaceful days back. How can anyone remain scared after that? As you can see, we have Deku determined to take down Hawk Moth. And Noir ready to protect the citizens of our appealing city. Beauty that was restored thanks to Noir's power. Every store owner of the affected areas must be happy knowing their livelihood is back just the way it was. At every moment that passes, our heroes' public support grows as the arguments made against them fall apart. Paris will stand united against Hawk Moth's menace, that I'm sure. And you can be sure that every step of our path back to peace will be covered here, on the Heroes blog, by me, your intrepid reporter, Alya Césaire. Until next time, Paris. Chloe put her phone down, staring at Alya impassively. Her friend had a strange smile under her scrutiny, sweating more at each second. With a huff, Chloe smirked, "Well done." Alya sagged with relief, "Did you really need to look at me like that?" "Yes. Had to get the point across." Chloe sent her tech specialist a go-ahead to put the newly crowned hero's blog on the air and to get ready for the dumpster fire known as the internet to fall upon it like a pack of rabid wolves. You want to be the face of this? Get ready to be put on the spot a lot. And to dodge bullets on the regular. Sabrina, lying on her bed while staring blankly at the ceiling, added dryly. Because I'm sure that getting you that footage was illegal. The trio had assembled a war council meeting at Sabrina's house, as she was home alone again thanks to her father being buried up to his neck in police work. Killing two birds with one stone, the girls utilized their sleepover to talk about their plans. Paris was at war. Not officially. Not openly. But it was. Anyone could be Hawk Moth's next victim, that uncertainty and fear only made things easy for the villain. With that in mind, the hero's blog was brought forward as a counterattack to Hawk Moth's fearmongering. With some luck, everybody and their cat would know Paris had two superheroes on its side. Heroes have already won both battles against Hawk Moth. That should, in theory, help lessen people's worries and lessen the number of potential targets for akumatization. Sabrina, you stole a car once, this isn't your first illegal rodeo. Chloe patted her friend's head, giggling as the redhead groaned. I smell a story. Sabrina shot Alya a flat look, I have the right to remain silent. Back on topic, ladies. Chloe threw herself on Sabrina's desk chair, a frown on her face. They had far too much to do if they were to be of any help. The blog will need constant maintenance, updates, and advertising to remain mainstream. I have someone to take care of the first, but the rest is up to us three. 4, counting Marinette. Alya huffed at that, annoyed at her best friend, I still can't believe she's not here for the blog's debut. Chloe shrugged, not looking too bothered, Mari said she had a commission to finish for tomorrow. You know that all her spending money comes from her freelance designing, so don't complain. I know. Thinking about it like that, Alya did feel shallow for getting angry at Marinette. God knows that girl worked too hard. Looking out the window, Alya caught herself muttering, I wonder what she's doing now. Noir was flying. Okay, not flying per se, but the sensation of swinging around Paris with her yo-yo was pretty close to it, she's sure. Just another day Noir had to be rescued from her weapon by Deku, then given a crash course on how to use it. Now, she felt like slingshotting herself up buildings was more natural than walking. Yahoo! Her cheers attracted the eyes of the pedestrians walking down the night streets of the City of Light. People pointed and awed at the red and black blur zipping through the air at breakneck speeds. The rush was so electrifying that Noir almost forgot the reason for her escapade. Thankfully, her eyes caught the neon green lines of her partner's costume. Noir swung from a billboard and landed on the right rooftop with a skip and barely a stumble. Sorry, I'm late. Don't worry, you got here in time. Deku put away his notebook. Where? Noir had no idea. With just how prepared Deku was, Noir wouldn't find it strange if he had some hidden pocket to stash it. He had glow-in-the-dark lines to help visibility, for goodness sake. Speaking of, the stylist in her took stock of the contrast of the neon green lines on the black outfit and nodded, your suit is really cool. The whole low-key overgeared blends well with the more nondescript style of the jumpsuit. Thanks, I guess. The idea was for it to be a stealth suit to conceal my identity while making myself visible to teammates. Okay, maybe Deku wasn't keen on fashion. Good to know. Also, there's no such thing as overgeared. Being equipped with what is necessary is always a must. Deku patted his utility belt fondly, as if it was a precious treasure, that's something you should remember. Don't worry, I'm also prepared. Noir put her hands in her pants' deep pockets, a giddy smile on her face. I have pockets now. Good to know. Deku shook his head, amusement clear in his eyes. The merry atmosphere died down quickly after that, the hero becoming serious. That's enough chit-chat. Come on. He walked to the center of the rooftop, Noir right behind him, and turned to her with a pointed look that made her straighten with a gulp. Before patrol, we'll have some basic training to get you ready. Ready for what, exactly? Deku started listing on his fingers, combat scenarios. Rescue operations. Teamwork. Info gathering dash. Noir waved her arms to cut off Deku. Okay, I get it. Hero NG was a lot more involved than she first thought. I'm behind in all of that. Her slumping earned the heroine a flick to the forehead from Deku. No one is born knowing how to do all this. He shot something to his left, a glare. Just take a step at a time and you'll learn too. Instead of commenting on his weird habit of throwing glares at some invisible thing only he could see, Noir nodded, right. So, where do we start? Combat training. Of course. Don't look at me like that. While I plan on being the vanguard and main fighter, there's no way of knowing which of us will reach an Akuma first or when danger will pop up. Another glare to the side, Deku's brows twitching in annoyance. You have to be able to hold your own in a fight too. Right. Yeah, makes sense. That doesn't mean Noir had to like it. Let me see what I'm working with. Try to hit me. Yeah, sure. Noir shuffled on her feet, unsure of what to do with herself for a moment, then raised her hands in what she thought was a boxing guard. Okay, that's enough. Deku's tone was so dry it could get rid of the ocean's humidity. I didn't even do anything yet. You did plenty. Deku walked closer and pushed her. Noir almost fell on her rear, saving herself from it at the last possible moment. Hey, what's that for? To show you how atrocious your footwork is. There was a tired type of exasperation in Deku's tone that stopped Noir's complaints in their tracks. He almost seemed. It was unfair even to call it disappointing, feeling more like Deku expected what he saw, and got annoyed to still be surprised by it. If you threw a punch like that, you would have kissed the floor, no doubt about it. You don't have to throw it on my face. Noir had never gotten in a fight before, even in the battles against Stoneheart she only took a support role. Just the thought of hurting someone made her stomach churn. I'm not. He ran a hand down his face, trying to put a calm front. Deku was in over his head, trying to teach someone how to be a hero when his experiences on the other side of the scale were disastrous, to say the least, wasn't something he was ready for. He wanted to help, he really did, but for that, Deku had to figure out how. Look, I'm not saying this for you to feel bad, I'm just pointing out something you're doing wrong and that you can get hurt if you don't fix it. Noir sighed, nodding her agreement to his words, it's fine. I only don't feel comfortable at the thought of hurting someone. Good. That means your morals are in the right place. The day you find yourself wanting to feel a person's chest caving in under your knuckles is the day you know there's something wrong with you. Deku huffed a chuckle, speaking from personal experience. She didn't find it funny. Are you okay? Come on, I'll show you a proper stance and we can go from there. Deku didn't even try to be subtle about changing the subject. Before Noir could try to push it, Deku hooked his foot on hers to pull her legs apart while pushing her shoulder down. Lower your center of gravity, bend your knees a bit, steady your stance. He pointed to every single part he critiqued while adjusting her body into something even Noir, in her uninformed opinion, felt was a martial arts stance. Stepping back, Deku contemplated his work. Noir's stance was still wobbly, but even while trying to maintain it very hard, to the point sweat ran down her brow, she clearly was much steadier than her first try. Better. Deku pushed her again, and Noir only took a half step back. Much better. The girl blinked, looked down at herself, then blinked some more. What? How? Her surprise from keeping her feet earned Noir a short laugh from Deku. He tapped her forehead. Your idea of what's the most important part of a fight is wrong. The goal isn't to take the other person down, it's to be still standing by the end of it. That was the first lesson his sensei tried to teach him. One that only truly sunk in when Deku suffered his first devastating loss. If you want to save someone, you have to be able to walk with your own two legs. In the field, when lives were on the line, you stood up on your own or were deadweight. No ifs or buts about it. Deku refused to be deadweight again. Refused to lose like that again. I'm not teaching you how to hurt others. I'm teaching you how to defend yourself. Please don't try that sales speech with me, Noir grumbled, crossing her arms and ruining her stance. People say there's a difference, but what changes if you're hurting someone in the end? The mindset behind it, firstly. Deku adopted his shoot style, the fighting style he developed in his last life to focus on his legs after his arms became too badly damaged. When you're trying to defend yourself you don't think, I want this person to feel pain, or anything of that line. He started to throw kicks, moving from one movement to the next and showing Noir the full range of his technique. The only thing going through your head is, I need to make the danger stop. Deku spun in a tornado kick, his reinforced boots slashing through the air. With a deceptively soft landing, Deku finished his demonstration and turned to the awed Noir. That's the greatest difference. Helping for a reward doesn't feel as genuine as helping for the sake of helping. The same applies to fighting for the sake of fighting and fighting for someone's sake. Yours, or anyone else's. With Deku's bright green eyes focused on her, Noir gave his words more thought than she would initially have done otherwise. He deserved the consideration. Applying his logic made it feel more altruistic. More purposeful. The goal wasn't the fight, the goal was protecting, and fighting was just the means. The process. Noir could get behind that. Even if still reluctantly. She really didn't like to hurt people, okay? Fine. I'll try my best, but in the future, I'll still leave the punchy part of it to you. A soft snort escaped Deku, then a chuckle. Seeing Noir's flat stare, he raised his hands in surrender. Sorry. It's just. Did you really say, punchy? Oh, hush. Noir turned her back to him, mostly to hide her warm cheeks and red face. Sorry. He hadn't stopped laughing. Come on, let's go back to it. We still have to patrol. YAH. Noir's cry was cut short by her back violently colliding with the floor, resulting in the air inside her lungs being forcefully expelled. Ouch. Thank goodness for miraculous magic and how her suit protected her from harm. Noir didn't think she would be able to get back up otherwise. I think that's enough combat training for tonight. Deku, the punk who had the gall to not even be winded, grabbed her hand and helped Noir to her feet. He gave her a once-over to make sure the only thing bruised was her pride and nodded to himself. Let's start the next part. There's more. To say she whined would be generous. Noir wasn't the fittest person around, but she was healthy. Deku though was a psychopath who could spend 1 hour teaching her martial arts, demonstrate moves and stances, and spar with no break and keep going. He turned his head to the side, looking amusedly at something. Really, why does he do that? Deku sighed and shook his head. Fine. How about this? Deku pulled her along to the edge of the rooftop. Stoneheart pressed us for time, so I only had the chance to give you some general tips. Now that there's nothing urgent, I can show you how to do some proper tridimensional traversal. What do you say? First, she would say that was much better than getting pummeled for an hour straight. But most importantly, hey, I can swing around just fine. Noir had some pride in her skills, in part for grasping them so quickly but mostly from how much she enjoyed yo-yo-ng around Paris. I know, you did great. Deku actually seemed excited about it. You grasped the basics quickly and were able to maintain your coordination the whole time. He caught himself, seeming as surprised as Noir that he was being so enthusiastic. Sorry. I think I got a little carried away. Seeing that Deku was putting his walls back up, Noir tried to push. Maybe she could help him to express himself, maybe she could help with whatever weighed on his chest and made his anger seep by the cracks of the tough shell he put on. It's fine. I never had people complimenting my coordination, of all things, but I bet you did better on your first time doing that. The harsh bark of laughter that he let out wasn't what Noir wanted to hear. Deku huffed and marched on my first go-round I slipped from a pipe and fell some good 3 stories face first. Believe me, I'm not the bar you should be aspiring for. He lit up with his power and hopped on the edge of the roof. Enough of that. Let's start patrolling and I'll show you the proper technique along the way. Wait, too little, too late. Deku leaped off. Looking at the green and black blur, almost vanishing against the night sky, Noir balled her fists in anger. Dang it, she wouldn't give up just because Deku kept trying to run from her. Deku drifted down slowly thanks to his meager control of float. He glanced back to see if Noir was following him, only to see a red and black blur coming straight at him. Dropping float and using Black Whip to pull ahead, he landed on a billboard lamp. On the other side of the advertisement, Noir almost crashed on the face of some model if not for Deku using Black Whip to grab and then deposit her safely on top of the metal structure. What are you doing? Trying to talk. To you. What? Noir pointed at Deku angrily, her face getting red. Yeah. Every single time you make one of your self-depreciative comments, you turn your back and run away. I'm not running away. Yes, you are. Noir started to walk closer to his perch, trying her best not to fall off and make a fool of herself. She was angry, no time for being a mess. After the first time with Stoneheart, and just now. What's wrong? She promptly lost steam seeing him looking down, hands crumpling the metal of the horizontal lamppost in his grip. Nothing is wrong. I'm fine. Whatever Deku was about to say would forever remain a mystery. His head snapped aside, ears straining for something. A motor's roar broke the night's tentative peace. SHT. After spitting a curse in English, Deku bolted. Noir, take the next crossing and circle around in the Louvre's direction. What? Why? Just do it. Deku strained his hold of One for All, bursts of 27% making his bones ache. Danger sense kept a steady pressure on the back of his head that only grew along the sound of police sirens and engines straining. Nothing like a car chase to change the subject, huh? Snapping his mouthguard into place, Deku pushed the part covering his ear. The inbuilt communicator buzzed to life. AR chase. The perpetrators are armed. 2 confirmed and 1 suspected to also be. Proceed with caution. Now guns. At least Deku wouldn't need to worry about one of them turning into a dinosaur or something. The absence of quirks made things much more simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. Finally reaching the parade of vehicles speeding through Paris streets, Deku took stock of the situation. The criminals were in a sports car that was steadily getting further and further away from the police cars chasing it. There were no shots fired, so no risk of a stray bullet hitting an innocent bystander. Deku would make sure it remained like that. He shot a strand of Black Whip to latch on a building and swung close to the ground. The moment the criminals realized someone with superpowers and a record of putting craters on the city was now after them was clear by the way the car almost lost control. They are scared, N commented from his place by Deku's side, the vestige's wispy form unseen by everybody else. Good. Deku hit the ground running, One for All warming his veins as his feet pounded against the asphalt. Even with only short bursts of 25%, Deku managed to gain ground on the runaway car. A crossing up ahead would have been a problem, but Noir thankfully followed his instructions and reached it before them. Now they just needed to, SHT, I forgot to tell her. Noir had seen the car speeding her way and decided to tie her yo-yo across the street to hopefully catch the car. A car that was at the very least at 130 km per hour. A car that would fold like a tin can if it was brought to zero too quickly. Better hurry. Grit your teeth. Fourth and second's words of encouragement were Deku's cue to spike his power to a bone-creaking 30%. The hero lunged at the car like a panther at a runaway deer, his boots and gauntlets denting the car's roof and startling the criminals inside. Transmission, low. The car, everyone inside, and Deku came to an abrupt and complete stop. Unlike normally, physics hadn't taken its PND of Flash for such an act by destroying the car and probably killing everyone inside while flinging Deku halfway to England. The hero shook off the uncomfortable vibration that gearshift caused, second's Quirk being as moody as its owner, and used Black Whip to tear open the car doors and pull the three criminals inside out of it. Quirk overuse started to settle. While not as severe as it could have been, Deku still felt his skin raw and his bones aching. He had to finish this fast and stop for a moment to catch his breath. Hey! Why do that? I had it handled. Paying no mind to Noir's complaints, Deku leaped to the left side of the car, where he had thrown out both the driver and the person in the back seat, said person having a submachine gun lying beside them. Armament, nondescript clothes, and ski masks. That pointed to organization and preparation above the common thug. Deku wished he had gotten a full report on who those were and what they did. Either way, he stomped on the gun, destroying it and cracking the street. That done, the driver was next, getting grabbed and thrown over their partner. From the feminine shriek, said partner was a woman. With a flick of Black Whip, the masks came off, confirming his guess, but to his surprise, the driver was also a woman. He could have sworn he heard a masculine grunt. Deku jerked his head to the side at the stab of warning from danger sense, hearing the bullet he just dodged whistling against the air by his ear. Bad move. He sent a tendril of Black Whip from his back, snatching the weapon from the third criminal and reeling it back to his awaiting hand. Deku barely registered the Glock before crumbling it in his grip like wet paper. Asserting that the situation was a lost cause, the man tried to turn around and run. Before he could get 3 steps away, Noir's yo-yo lassoed his legs. The criminal fell like a sack of bricks, almost smashing his head on the floor if not by a hasty catch. That served little, as Deku grabbed the man's head and pushed it harshly against the cooling asphalt, earning a groan of discomfort from the criminal. Which turned into a pained grunt when the hero ripped the mask off his head. Damn it. We had it. The only thing you have is a long stay in jail waiting for you. Deku pulled a zip tie from his belt pouches and tied the man's arms behind his back. Why are you pulling this when there's a maniac capable of controlling people and turning them into monsters running around? Are you an idiot or you're just feeling like committing a particularly stupid form of suicide? The man strained his neck to glare at Deku with his bloodshot gray eyes. Why should we care about that SHT? You think the world stopped just because some lucky but with superpowers decided to go after you? Get real. Oh, I'm being very real. Deku sighed, knowing it was a waste of time but trying to reason with the man either way. I already made it clear that emotional stress is an open door to Hawk Moth's control. You seem very distressed, and I bet your buddies are too. He grabbed the man and dragged him to where he had tied his literal partners in crime. Both women were scared and silent, maybe because of the hole Deku put in the car he had propped them against when threatening them to what would happen if they tried to run while he was busy. What could he say? Deku was nothing if not fast and efficient. Throwing the guy beside them, Deku finished his point. What would you have done if Hawk Moth had turned one of you into an Akuma and ordered it to shoot down the deadweight? Would you have gone for the kill first? He crouched to look the 3 criminals in the eyes, seeing the answer in them. No, you wouldn't. So if you care enough not to stain the seats with your buddy's brains, then use yours and don't pull this kind of stunt. Deku glanced at the police officers quickly getting out of their vehicles and approaching the tied criminals, not like you'll have the chance anyway. Having nothing left to say, Deku nodded to one of the officers and leaped away, not in the mood to talk anymore. Tough luck. Hey! Came Nuwa's soft voice the moment Deku's feet touched down on a building further ahead from the crossing. Where everything just transpired. He sighed. Of course. What had he expected? His record in both his lives was proof enough that it was one thing after the other when Deku was involved. That didn't mean he hadn't anything to say, I'm sorry. From the way Nuwa's eyes widened, she wasn't expecting the apology. What are you sorry for? I think everything went well, more or less. Her attempt at optimism fell flat in the end. I expected you to figure out everything on your own without giving a word of guidance. Whatever would have happened would be on me then. What are you talking about? Deku waved her closer and sat at the edge of the roof they were in. Nuwa took the invite for what it was and sat beside him. What you did was hook your yo-yo across the street to use the string to try catching the car, right? Yes. In the best-case scenario, it would have snapped and they would have kept going. As whatever magic our miraculous uses to create our suits and equipment can withstand 100% of my Q power, I would say that wouldn't happen. That brings us to the worst-case scenarios. Deku started to count on his fingers, Nuwa's eyes widening at each point. Whatever you hooked broke and maybe hit someone. The runaway car was stopped abruptly and caved in, which meant at least 2 fatalities at that speed. Or in the case we're specialty lucky, the car would get horizontally bisected, and the 3 idiots inside along with it. Nuwa turned green at the mental image. Oh God, I almost killed 3 people. You almost got 3 casualties because of me. Deku poked Nuwa's forehead, breaking her from whatever disastrous line of thought she started. I am the one who should know better. I should have told you what to do in this case. Stop that. Nuwa pushed his hand away and glared at Deku. I'm not a baby. I can take care of myself. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm saying you don't have experience with this yet. I have, I should have helped more. You could talk to me more, yes. Her dry tone made it clear she wasn't only speaking about the recent incident. But not everything is your fault, okay? And either way, you stopped the car before, you know. Nuwa shivered, her face paling again at the thought of what her mistake could have caused. Seeing that she was still hung up about it, Deku decided to concede the point and move on from the topic. Fine. Let's call it a learning experience from both our parts. Yeah, let's settle on that. Nuwa let out a sigh, still feeling queasy. Trying to think of something else, she tilted her head aside, eyes narrowing at something she just realized. Hey, how did you stop the car? The whole point wasn't that physics would have destroyed it, but you got it to stop just like that. She snapped her fingers to get the point across. Tell her. Deku's eyes snapped aside. First, what the actual F? The vestige heard his mental complaint and rolled his eyes. Look, you two are stuck together until this whole magic shebang is over, right? So better tell her what you can do now, then regret it later when things go south because you weren't honest. He has a point. Fifth pointed at the street where the police were closing the street, a sharp glare on his face. You just saw how not saying SH2 properly gets your butt bitten. Tell the girl what she needs to know before we have a replay of this. God damn it. It's called gear shift. Deku turned back to Nuwa, seeing her curious eyes meeting his. At least she didn't comment on his pause to talk to the ghosts haunting him. It's one of my powers. It can control acceleration while disregarding inertia. That was a lot more than Nuwa expected, and having Deku finally talking to her properly and sharing a bit about himself felt great. Still, she could admit she didn't get it. What? You know how to slow down a moving object, you need to apply a force to the opposite direction it is moving? Yes. Physics wasn't her strongest subject, okay? Gearshift just says no to all that and sets the speed of anything I apply it on to whatever I choose to. That's how I stopped the car without it becoming a block of scrap a third of its original size. He pulled a notebook from somewhere. Real talk, where did he keep those? And sketched a simple drawing of the car they just stopped. Transmission, low, is how I use it to forcefully stop objects. No matter how fast it was going, the kinetic energy it contained is just gone after using it. He wrote the car's speed, crossed it, and then put a big 0 over the car. Oh. Now I get it. If there's no energy moving it to one side, it stops, but without having to apply the same amount of energy to the other side. And smashing whatever got caught between the two forces. Nope, not thinking about that. Exactly. And just like that, Deku brightened some. Actually, he brightened a lot more than usual. It's incredibly useful for stopping non-living bodies, especially if it's something that can't self-propel. Wait, so why didn't you use it on those metal beams Stoneheart threw at you? I can't use it very well, at least not while my body isn't acclimatized to it. Deku's subsequent dry snort was accompanied by some of his dark humor. If I used it to speed up myself, my lungs would shrivel and die trying to oxygenate my BLD. Noir had to hug herself to stop the shiver that went down her whole body. Please don't. Wait, that's why you hurt your arm with that black thing, and why you broke your finger against that cloud of butterflies from Hawk Moth, right? Because your body isn't used to your powers. Got it in one. To say Deku looked angry wouldn't be right, but that he looked disappointed with himself. That alone wouldn't make it justice. Black Whip causes damage after prolonged use. Smokescreen leaves my skin extremely irritated. FA Gene breaks my bones just as well as if I go over my limit with the base stockpile. And don't even get me started with Float. He harshly rubbed his face with his gauntlets, something that was for sure very uncomfortable and possibly painful. I have so much to do, I need to MSTR all those powers, but they are all too much for the time I had. If Hawk Moth had done us the favor of waiting 2 more years. Deku dropped back, laying half-sprawled on the rooftop while his legs dangled from its edge. But when have power-hungry megalomaniacs waited for a convenient time to show up? After having all that information dropped on her lap, Noir had to take a moment and process it. That was a lot. Like, a whole lot. But while getting saddled with it was overwhelming, it gave Noir a new understanding of her partner. She also leaned back and laid down, staring up at the night sky and the few stars that broke through Paris light pollution. You're frustrated because you think you could have solved everything if you could use all your powers. I know I could. He punched down, his gauntlet-clad fist banging loudly against the tiles. Sighing, Deku brought his hands to press against his eyes, but useless Deku still isn't enough. You're not useless, Deku, you can do it, Deku. You said it yourself. She didn't face him, but Noir could feel the glowing green eyes staring at her. No one blames you for not being ready, I sure am not. A softer snort escaped him, blaming me already? Yes. The startled laugh she got would forever count as a personal victory for Noir. She loved raising her friends' spirits, doubly so when they desperately needed it. Deku pushed himself up and offered Noir a hand to help her do the same. Maybe people don't blame me, but that doesn't change the fact I need to get better. Both of us do. She shot the crossing another glance, hiding a grimace to the best of her ability. So let's just take a step at a time. That came out too weak for her taste, we'll get there, right? So instead of blaming ourselves, let's accept it as a process and that we need time. There, much better. We don't have time. Of course we do. She gestured to the skyline lit up by a sea of lights. Paris is still standing, isn't it? That could change in a blink. Deku would know, what with how many cities he saw crumbling before his eyes. Maybe, maybe not. There's no way we can know. Noir was always an optimist at heart. Everything could go wrong at any time, just the same way everything could go right. Being a superhero was a stress she didn't need, but even then, maybe things would work out. She could only hope. What do you say we put a pin to this conversation and resume patrol? They had only started it, but Deku felt both mentally and emotionally exhausted. Noir pitched her face at the proposition, thinking Deku wanted to run away from the conversation again. Seeing his tired face, she realized that what he shared was everything he could say in one go. Okay. But only if you promise to talk to me later. I'll try dash. Promise. There was no way Noir would budge, so Deku only sighed and accepted the loss, promise. He activated full cowling again, feeling the soft buzz of power over his skin. Let's go, slower this time around. What, tired already? Yes. Overuse leaves me feeling like a stuffed lithium battery that was thrown in a toilet and flushed. Noir almost whiffed her throw, her yo-yo going wide but still latching onto something. She turned to him with an extremely confused face. What? Yeah. He leaped, only using 12% to not push his body harder than needed. The spike of power to get the car would for sure leave Deku sore the next day, at the very least. Come on. At a reasonably leisure pace, Deku and Noir circled Paris in search of people to help or something that could clue them to their enemy's location. There wasn't much of anything to show on both fronts by the end of it, but having a tranquil rest of the night did both of them good. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Bola 8 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.